"Evelyn Carter," he yells, voice raw and soaked with rain. "You said you were rich. So why was your car impounded last night outside a rundown motel?" Wedding crasher yelling in the middle of her vows. Lovers stood at the altar, both dressed for forever, until the lies they built their love on came crashing down, and for the first time they saw who the other truly was. Too late. But before we start the video, let us know where you're watching this video, and if you like this story, don't forget to subscribe, Story Store, and please share your thoughts about this story in comment section. The sky weeps over the city. Rain lashes against the crystal glass canopy of the outdoor wedding venue, distorting the chandelier's shimmer into a blur of teardrops. Rows of elegantly dressed guests turn their heads as the orchestra halts mid-note. The bride stands still, Evelyn Carter, breathtaking in a satin gown laced with pearls, her smile a perfect porcelain mask, until the man in the torn suit crashes through the double doors. "Evelyn Carter," he yells, voice raw and soaked with rain. "You said you were rich. So why was your car impounded last night outside a rundown motel?" Gasps ripple like thunder across the aisle. Cameras flash. One woman drops her champagne glass. Evelyn stiffens. Her face drains of color. Standing beside her, Daniel Wolfe, the perfect groom in a tailored tuxedo, doesn't flinch. His eyes lock on Evelyn's, searching. Then, slowly, he pulls off his platinum watch. The glint catches the light as he drops it onto the marble floor with a sharp, final clink. "And you," he says softly, heartbreak laced in every syllable. "You told me you loved me." The man with nothing. For a moment, time stills. The only sound is the steady drumming of rain. Evelyn opens her mouth to speak, but nothing comes out. The man in the torn suit is dragged away by security. His job done, chaos sown. Daniel doesn't look at him. He doesn't look at the crowd. His eyes never leave Evelyn. "What else?" he asks, voice barely audible. "What else wasn't real?" A child cries in the back. An elderly guest murmurs a prayer. Then silence. Evelyn's shoulders sag under the weight of secrets. Everything she built, every lie she spun for love, unravels beneath the floral arch. She lifts her veil with trembling fingers. "I can explain," she whispers. But it's too late. Because this isn't just a ruined wedding. It's the reckoning. And somewhere deep in her chest, Evelyn knows the truth doesn't wait forever. Not when it's dressed in a torn suit and shows up just in time to say, "I know who you are." 6 months earlier, Evelyn Carter stood at the edge of the glittering crowd, heart pounding beneath a borrowed designer gown. Crystal chandeliers cast golden shadows over priceless art and polished smiles. Everyone here looked like they belonged, except her. She tightened her grip on the stolen guest pass, hoping no one would notice the frayed heels she'd spray-painted that morning. A waiter floated past with champagne. She took one, raised it like a shield, and wandered near a painting that reminded her of something. A skyline, maybe, or freedom. "Beautiful piece," a voice said beside her. She turned, and nearly forgot how to breathe. The man was tall, sharp-jawed, with a casual grace that didn't match the tailored crowd. "Daniel," he said, offering a hand. "I work in construction. Or, at least that's what I tell my mother when I want her to stop asking questions." Evelyn laughed, too loudly, too relieved. "Evelyn," she replied, adjusting her posture. I run a small art investment firm, tiny, family-owned." He nodded, like he believed her, like he wanted to. As the night deepened, they drifted toward a quieter corner. They talked about art, life, dreams too big to say aloud. Evelyn's lie began to feel like a borrowed coat, warm, comforting, temporary. Daniel, watching her eyes light up, said, "Honestly, I barely scrape by doing odd jobs." Evelyn blinked. Relief flooded her chest. He's not rich either. She smiled, softer this time. "I like people who are real." They clinked glasses. Two strangers. Two lies. Neither realizing they were both playing the same game, and both believing, for just one night, that pretending could lead to something real. But the gallery had cameras, and someone else had been watching. "Drop you home?" Daniel asked, leaning casually against his car, the city lights dancing in his eyes. Evelyn froze. Home was a cramped studio with peeling walls and a neighbor who practiced drums at midnight. No way he could see that. Thinking fast, she smiled. "Sure, I'll text you the address." Half an hour later, they pulled up in front of a high-rise luxury apartment building in the heart of downtown. Daniel whistled low. "Nice place." Evelyn shrugged like it was no big deal. "It's just home." What she didn't mention? The real owner was out of town. Evelyn was dog-sitting for a week. Access to the marble kitchen, the modern art, the skyline view. She figured she could fake one night of luxury. Inside, Daniel wandered through the sleek space, admiring the walls. He stopped in front of a bold, abstract painting framed in gold. "Interesting choice," he said, almost too casually. Evelyn joined him, pretending to study it. "It's French?" Daniel chuckled. "Maybe." But behind his eyes something shifted. He knew the painting. He painted it. Years ago, under a different name, before Wolf Studios ever went public. Only a few collectors had one. What was it doing here? He didn't say a word, just smiled, kissed her goodnight, and left. Evelyn closed the door and exhaled in relief. She thought she fooled him. But now, Daniel had a question of his own. Who exactly was Evelyn Carter? And why was she lying? Daniel texted her an address. No explanation, no emojis, just, "Come hungry. Wear something you can ruin." Evelyn raised an eyebrow but showed up in sneakers and curiosity. The place was nothing like she expected. A dusty, half-renovated warehouse on the edge of the city. Broken windows, faded walls, no chandelier, no art, just crates, tools, and peeling posters. He handed her a paintbrush. "I'm turning it into something new," he said. "Thought you might like to help." She blinked. "This is a date?" He grinned. "The best kind." Evelyn hesitated, then dipped the brush in paint and streaked a bold line across the wall. They worked side by side, painting, laughing, wiping sweat with their sleeves. Daniel watched her. Not the brush, not the walls, but her. He'd brought her here to see if she could handle his real world. And she had. Meanwhile, Evelyn thought, he's not rich, he's real. This lie might actually work. Neither of them realized they were both pretending to be poor. Evelyn sat in the corner of a cozy cafe, sipping her coffee when a voice from behind froze her mid-sip. "Otto's Diner, right?" Max asked, sliding into the seat across from her. She choked on her drink. Max Wolf, Daniel's brother, had that same sharp, calculating look as his sibling, but with an edge that made her stomach twist. No," she stammered. I served at a gala once. Maybe you're confusing me with someone else." Max smirked, eyes narrowing. "Funny. I remember you from the diner. Same face, same cheap apron." Her heart pounded. How much did he know? Before she could recover, Max leaned in, his voice dropping low. "Look, Evelyn, Daniel's not an idiot. He's got a good heart, but he's been burned before. If you're playing games, you'll lose." She forced a smile, nodding. "I'm not playing games." Max's eyes lingered for a moment longer, as if searching for a lie in her expression. Later that night, Daniel asked, "What did Max say to you?" Evelyn hesitated. "Nothing important." But everything felt important now. Evelyn fumbled with the keys, her hands shaking as she approached her apartment. The last thing she needed tonight was more chaos. But when she stepped through the door, she found her mother waiting inside, hunched over with papers in hand, her face clouded with worry. "Mom," Evelyn's voice cracked, "what are you doing here?" Her mother's eyes flicked up, filled with tears. "They're evicting us, Evelyn. I can't—" Evelyn took a step forward, her stomach dropping. "No, Mom, not now. Please." She glanced toward the bedroom, half expecting Daniel to knock on the door any second. "I tried," her mother sobbed. "I tried to get the money, but there's no way. We'll lose everything." Evelyn gripped the counter, swallowing the rising panic. She couldn't let Daniel know, not now. She had built a life, a lie. Suddenly, a shadow crossed the doorway. Evelyn froze. Through the cracked window, she saw Daniel, just standing there, watching her. His expression unreadable. She closed the door softly, pretending nothing was wrong, but his gaze pierced through her. The next morning, Daniel didn't bring it up. He simply said, "You ever feel like the people you love deserve more than who you are?" Her heart ached. Evelyn stared out the window. How much longer could she keep hiding? Daniel led Evelyn to a secluded mountain retreat, surrounded by mist and the scent of pine. The air was crisp, the quiet only interrupted by the distant call of birds. It felt like a dream, one she never wanted to wake from. That night, after a dinner filled with laughter and moments of easy intimacy, Daniel took her hand, his eyes glinting in the soft light. "I have something for you," he whispered, his voice heavy with emotion. He pulled out a small velvet box and opened it to reveal a ring, a stunning diamond, larger than anything she'd ever seen. Evelyn's breath caught in her throat. "It's beautiful," she murmured, her hands trembling. She knew she should be thrilled, but something gnawed at her. The truth was closing in. Before she could speak, Daniel placed the ring on her finger. "Will you marry me, Evelyn? Will you make this life, this dream, real?" She looked at the ring, then at him. "Yes," she said, her voice shaking. But her mind raced. She could never be the woman he thought she was. Later, lying in bed beside him, she couldn't shake the thought, "What am I really to him?" Desperation crept in. She had to tell him. But when? Evelyn paced the balcony of their penthouse suite, the mountain air doing nothing to calm her storming thoughts. The ring sparkled on her finger like a spotlight on her lie. She needed to tell Daniel the truth about the fake apartment, the borrowed dress, the job at Otto's. Everything. She rehearsed it all in her head. "Daniel, I lied. I'm not who you think I am." But every version ended the same way, him walking away. Just as she built up the nerve, Daniel stepped out onto the balcony, holding a cream-colored envelope. His jaw was tight. "This came for me today." Inside were photos, grainy shots of Evelyn in her diner uniform, taking out trash, handing coffee to a man in a wrinkled suit. Tucked between them was a note. "Still want to marry the gold digger?" Her breath caught. He looked at her, expression unreadable. She opened her mouth, ready to confess everything. But Daniel just folded the photos, tucked them into his jacket, and said, "It's late. Let's get some rest." Then he walked inside. Evelyn stood frozen, heart racing. He knew, but he hadn't left. What was he waiting for? Or worse, what was he planning? Daniel stood alone in his private studio, staring at a half-finished painting. her silhouette, captured in golden strokes, wearing the same gown from the night they met. He had known. From the second week, after Evelyn claimed the luxury apartment as hers, he made a single phone call. Within hours, he had her full story. Waitress at Otto's Diner, drowning in debt, no trace of an art heiress background. He should have walked away. But something about her, her laugh, her grit, the way she looked at life like it still owed her magic, made him hesitate. So, he made a choice. Test her. Hide his wealth. Pretend to be a man of dust and dreams. Give her the chance to love him, not his name. But now, with every layer of her lie unraveling, Daniel wasn't sure anymore. Was she ever in love with him, or just who she hoped he was? He picked up the envelope with the photos again. Max's handwriting scrawled across the back. Still think she's different? Daniel clenched his jaw. He hadn't said a word to Evelyn yet, not because he didn't care, but because he was afraid he was in love with the lie, too. The night before the wedding, Evelyn sat alone in her bridal suite, staring at her reflection. The gown hung beside her, pristine, untouched. Her chest tightened with guilt and fear. A knock. She opened the door and froze. It was Ryan, her ex-boyfriend, unshaven, bitter, and holding a folder of old photos. "Well, well," he sneered, stepping inside uninvited. "Didn't think I'd find you playing princess." Her voice shook. "What do you want?" "10 grand, he said. "Or your fiancé gets a very interesting wedding gift. Photos, receipts, love letters. Remember those?" She panicked. She didn't have that kind of money. Then her eyes landed on the diamond bracelet Daniel had given her at the engagement party. It was her favorite, sparkling and real. She unclasped it with trembling hands and shoved it into Ryan's palm. "Take it and leave." Ryan smirked. "Pleasure doing business." What Evelyn didn't see, a small security camera blinking red above the door. Daniel's head of security watched everything from a screen downstairs. He called Daniel, hesitating. "Sir, it's handled." Daniel said nothing, but his grip tightened around his phone. Another lie, another test failed, and tomorrow the truth would walk down the aisle. The rain came without warning, sharp, cold, and relentless. Guests huddled beneath the glass roof of the outdoor venue, the sound of raindrops thundering like a heartbeat. Evelyn stood at the altar in white lace and diamonds, her smile fixed but fragile. Daniel looked dashing, unreadable. Then came the chaos. A man burst through the aisle, soaked, disheveled, his suit torn and voice trembling with rage. "Evelyn Carter," he shouted. "You said you were rich. Then why was your junk car impounded outside a rundown motel last night?" Gasps echoed. Phones rose. Cameras clicked. Evelyn's face drained of color. The man was no stranger. He was hired by Max Wolf. From the crowd, Max watched with cold satisfaction. His revenge for being cut out of the Wolf Empire had arrived in designer vengeance. Daniel didn't move. He just stared at Evelyn. She stepped forward, her voice breaking. "I lied. About everything. I was scared you'd never love the real me." Silence. Daniel slowly removed his luxury watch and dropped it onto the rain-soaked ground. "And you said you loved me?" The man with nothing. His voice cracked. "I lied too," he whispered. "But not to test you. I was hoping you'd fall for the real me." Their truths clashed at the altar, raw and public. Guests began to leave. And there they stood, two people once in love, now shattered by truths spoken too late. In the rain, under the weight of what could have been. The city felt different now, quieter, slower. Evelyn stood in front of a modest brick building with paint-streaked windows. Bright Start Art Center. Her hands were stained with color, her heart lighter than it had been in years. A year had passed since the wedding that wasn't. She left behind the lies, the pressure, and the fantasy life she had tried to hold together with trembling fingers. Now, she taught kids how to paint, how to dream. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest, and for the first time she could breathe. One rainy afternoon, as she cleaned brushes near the window, the door creaked open. She turned and froze. Daniel. Older somehow, softer. In his hands, a canvas wrapped in cloth. "I painted something," he said quietly. She didn't move, afraid it might all vanish. He set the canvas down and peeled back the cover. Her breath caught. It was her. Standing at that art gallery a year ago in the borrowed gold gown, eyes full of hope and fear. A moment frozen in time. She looked up, tears rising. "Why now?" "I tried to forget you," Daniel said. "But I never wanted the lie. I wanted the girl who wore borrowed dreams like royalty." Evelyn stepped closer. No more lies, no masks, just them. She reached for his hand. "You still want messy, honest love?" He smiled. "Only if it's with you." Outside, the rain softened. Inside, something beautiful began again.